Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
Guillermo meeting my ex-boyfriend last night ended up being a lot more awkward than I had intended or anticipated.
So,
What?
how are you feeling? Like this is your ex?
Is this my ex?
You have those feelings?
Okay, so I've been reacting. There's been some eventful things happening with Kara and Guillermo. So to catch you up, he was talking about how he feels like she talks down to him, which we've seen evidence of, not in a severe way, but to some extent. And he doesn't like that. And then they were preparing for this event with, I think it's like a high school reunion type of a thing for Kara. And she is making the balloons for it. And he's helping her out. He's never done that kind of work before. And so she's barking at him in a mean way. He's trying to make it a little bit lighter. And yeah, it's not like it's not like this event is some sort of make or break situation for her, I'm guessing. So I didn't really understand why she was so intense, other than the thing that she even said in an interview. She's like, I'm really nervous about tonight because it's 10 years later from high school, and I was the homecoming queen. I was on student council. I was a cheerleader. And now 10 years later, I'm making balloon things, and I'm not proud of myself in terms of where I am in my career. And so a lot of people will feel that way. I have talked with a lot of American late 20s clients who will express that concern of just like, I feel like I'm a loser. And often the individuals in the late 20s, they're comparing themselves to that one or two individuals in their class that they graduated with as having a very flashy, impressive life. And they're not comparing themselves to the average person. And I think that it can stem from a lot of different things, self-esteem, this sort of thing. But I also think it stems from this notion that I think is instilled in children more now than it was when I was growing up, in that this idea that, especially if you come from privilege, as Kara, I think, does, that you're going to be an amazing person when you grow up. You're going to have this amazing career. You're going to change the world. When I was growing up, and of course it was more so in previous generations, the expectations were far less than that. It was, you're going to get a job, you're going to do your work, you're going to get a pension, and then you'll retire, and then you'll die. Like, you're probably not going to make a difference in the world. Why would you think that? And, you're just going to be one of the masses. So don't think of, and there wasn't pressure around that. Certainly, if you wanted to make a difference, you could set out to do that. But I don't remember anyone talking like that. I just remember the biggest aspiration people had was like, well, maybe I'll be a manager at Boeing or something. I don't remember people talking about going to Ivy League schools. I don't remember people talking about being a CEO or anything. And I think the tech boom in the 90s had an effect on people, and then the amount of effort that parents and teachers will put into children, preparing them for the future. I mean, I remember when in the 70s and 80s, there was like talk of prepping for the future for sure. But I've worked with a lot of kids, and I worked as a psychologist for a school district for a while, and would work really closely with kids nearby Seattle. And the amount of pressure, and of course this isn't all kids, but this is on the east side of Seattle, so it's Bellevue, Kirkland area, Redmond area, which is where Microsoft and a lot of the tech companies are from. And it also, I believe, the Costco brand Kirkland is named after Kirkland. And by the way, there's a Honda dealership in Kirkland, so Kirkland Honda. And when I call people and I come up on their ID, caller ID, people think it's Kirkland Honda. I'll get calls of like, so, I'd like to buy a car. And I'm like, wrong number. So the kids would be, in fact, I was walking through the hallway of the school, and there's this big poster board thing of identifying, highlighting all the kids in terms of what college that they're going to. And, we're talking like Brown and Harvard and, big deal schools. And most of the kids who were graduating were going, this is a particular school. It's a public school, but it's a particular kind of public school. But anyway, and I'm thinking, what about the kids who just want to go to community college or who don't want to go to college? How come there's this big, do you have a big poster for them too? And there's just so much pressure. And I find that there's not a lot of pushback on it. There's not a lot of opportunity for parents and families and kids and teachers to just be like, you know what, let's just let them be kids. They'll figure it out later. They don't need to think about going to an Ivy League. And, certainly if you're into that. But anyway, point is that I think Kara is falling into a mindset that a lot of younger people are in. And it's not like when I was going to my 10-year reunion in high school, I didn't have that feeling as well. I think it's just one of those things. We don't usually have our careers really off the ground when we're in our late 20s, usually. So anyway, so she was talking about that. So I was wondering if that was why she was really tense, because she was seeing people from her childhood and she doesn't feel very successful, so she's taking it out on him, which gives an explanation for it. It doesn't excuse it, and it is worrisome. As her tension level goes up, she starts to attack him as a way of expressing her anger, her frustration, him being a punching bag, she feels inferior, and so she comes at him as superior to him, makes him feel inferior. He seems to be handling it okay. He doesn't seem to be crumbling under the weight of that. He seems to roll with it pretty well. He's not happy about it, of course. And then they had the event, and her ex-boyfriend showed up, and he was a character. I don't know what to think of him. He kept calling Kara bro, which I guess people do these days. I don't really understand it. If I were Kara, I'd be like, stop calling me bro. Like, just knock it off. And anyway, so there was that. And then the boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, says, yeah, we had this wild time. And, there's this one time where, I saw on your phone that you were cheating on me. And Kara is like, I don't even remember that. And then she's like, but now that you say that, yeah, I guess I do remember that. And that's interesting. On one level, it's normal to have a lot of chaos in relationships when we are younger, in high school, college, that kind of thing, and to perhaps not remember all the details. Also, it is normal to forget things conveniently that are shameful to us. It's also possible that her mindset at the time was that she was entitled. Our brain isn't fully formed, and infidelity can sometimes happen. And then you look back and you're like, I did a terrible thing. But at the time, you're like, whatever. But her reaction as how old is she? I got to look at my notes. As a 29-year-old woman, was interesting because, and who knows if they edited it, but she could have said something like, I forgot about that. I'm so sorry I did that to you. That's awful that I cheated on you. I must have been really hard. Instead, she's just kind of glossed over it. Like, I don't remember that. Anyway, I mean, the ex-boyfriend wasn't super vulnerable, but it doesn't take a genius to imagine that he was hurt by it, and maybe still is a little hurt by it. Yeah, that would be normal, right? But who knows? It's hard to know how Kara was really reacting. And then Guillermo started to have some concerns. He's like, wait, so you cheated on someone in the past? That worries me. And this is a heuristic that people use that a little too much, I think, for Guillermo to feel threatened or afraid of Kara cheating on him because she cheated when she was in high school 12 years ago I just don't think there's a correlation there. And a lot of people will do that. And they do this on the show often because I think people do it in culture. They'll learn that their partner cheated in the past and immediately be threatened. Now, might there be an association there? Maybe. It's hard to research this sort of thing, and I've talked about the limitations to this. It's all self-report. You have to ask people, have you cheated in the past? Are you cheating now? And it's just hard to know if people are going to give accurate answers, what constitutes cheating. I just remembered what Kara actually said as a response. She says, I guess we should have broken up earlier. Okay. but you still cheated. And not we, but you should have broken up earlier. You know, when people say that, it aggravates me, because when you cheat in general, not all the time, you are committing a lie, you're deceiving, you're doing something that is absolutely going to hurt another person. You are going to potentially destroy the other person's trust. You are not living up to your integrity. There's a lot of things that are wrong with cheating. Occasionally there are situations where we would say, well, you know, it's kind of a special circumstance if you're being abused, for example. But anyway, and this perspective that people will say of just like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I was cheating in the past, but you know what? We should have broken up like 6 months before we actually did. End of story. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's probably true. And you made a choice. You made several decisions to take actions that you knew were going to harm the other person. And then they found out and they were harmed by it. I've worked with clients who are traumatized by infidelity that happened to them 25 years prior. It's an extreme, it can be, not always, it can be an extreme relational trauma to people. You go into a relationship feeling like you can trust the other person. At the very least, they'll tell you if something goes wrong, or even they'll tell you, oh my God, I cheated last night, I'm so sorry. But to cheat for a while, you know, that's several decisions. And so to the victim of cheating, you have to reckon with, so for her boyfriend, I think he found out that it'd been happening for a while. Anyway, you think, wait, so can I believe anything? That's very traumatic to someone to feel like, so this whole time you've been lying to me, especially if it's really prolonged, right? You've been saying you love me, you've been acting like everything's fine, but the whole time it wasn't fine. You know, it's really awful. Now, again, maybe Kara does actually feel bad about it. But for Guillermo, I guess there would be some concern there. But what do you say? I'm just like, I'm upset because you cheated on that guy 12 years ago. Let's see how they talk about it.
So what did he say that made you feel some type of way?
He said that you cheated on him. You never told me that, actually.
I actually forgot. I swear I thought I just broke up with him.
How are you gonna forget? I mean, in some way, sorry, but for me, it feels like lying.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is, it feels like you've lied to me because you didn't tell me that you had cheated. Yeah, I don't think that's a fair way to describe it. But yeah, well, so the concern is that he is worried that she is going to leave him, that she is going to cheat on him and then leave him. So how do you recognize that in yourself if you're Guillermo? How do you recognize that? How do you read between the lines if you're Kara? You know, instead of going, I didn't lie to you, you would say, oh, yeah, I want to tell you that was a long time ago. I'm not making excuses. I would never do that to you. I've learned a lot in the last 12 years. So know that I have integrity. If I ever had that urge, which I don't think would ever happen, I will tell you right away. In fact, that happened to me 5 years ago in a previous relationship. I started to have these thoughts, and I told the person right away because I don't want to do what I did in high school. Let's see what she says.
How will you forget that you cheated on someone?
Well, it wasn't significant for me, obviously.
I don't know, you make him feel so bad. How many times have you cheated on someone?
I mean, like twice, probably.
Yeah, okay. I thought she's like, and I'm like, well, that doesn't look good. Was it going to be more than I can count? Okay, twice. So, all right, read between the lines. And primarily, though, Guillermo could own his feelings. It's like, wow, when I hear that, it scares me. I wouldn't like to think that you're still like that or that you've ever cheated on me, but when I hear that and when I see your attitude about it, you don't seem to be remorseful about it. It worries me. It scares me. I feel like I'm going to lose you. Can you reassure me along those lines? But often conversations like this on this television show and in my office and in the world, you don't say your feelings, you don't address the feelings, and you fight about the surface level things, trigger each other, make the matters worse.
Are you gonna do I mean, because did you really change?
Absolutely. I was like 17, 18.
Okay, good. They took a turn. He's like, are you going to do that to me? Instead of saying, you are a piece of crap, it's, are you going to do that to me? So that's definitely in the direction of what I was saying earlier. She's saying, absolutely, I'll never do that to you. That was when I was 17. Let's see what else she says here.
So you think that you're not going to do it again?
No.
I hope you'll learn a lot.
Yeah. Well, 10 years is a lot of time to learn about yourself.
I'm just saying that I hope.
Yeah, good. He's saying, I think what he's saying is, I hear you and believe you for the most part, but how can I know? And I hope what you're saying is true, that you won't cheat on me.
I feel weird and disappointed, but in the same time, I give Kara the opportunity to show me the real person she is. I mean, she can try to cheat on me, but then I will have to just walk away. I will just leave her.
Yeah, I've talked about this before, that it's common for people to have this policy, which is fine. You can have that policy, but I don't recommend that everyone automatically do this, because you could be passing up something that is worth salvaging. And I've worked with many couples as they recover from infidelity, and they're better off afterwards. And there's an opportunity there. We have this notion in our culture that somehow if someone cheats on you, they're always going to cheat on you, which just is not true. Or if someone cheats on you, it's disrespectful to yourself to stay in that relationship, which is also not true. It can be true if it's true to you, if you want to leave. Maybe it is a sign that the person is not worthy of your love or is a good partner. But I find that particularly younger people, no offense, will have this policy, and then if you ask people that are 40, 50, 60 about this, they'll say much different things on average. They'll be like, well, yeah, if my partner cheats on me, that'd be devastating, but you know, I guess I would try to talk with them. It's like, what's going on? Do you love them? Do you want to be with me? And just work it out somehow. And like I said, often the couples that I work with regarding infidelity, after we go through the recovery process, which could be weekly meetings for 3 years, by the way, it's not easy, that often they're much stronger, much more in love, much more understanding. They might have always had, say it's 25 years into the relationship and then cheating happens, there might have been ongoing issues for the past 20 years that they didn't know how to resolve. And then this event forces them to address it. The cheating is still wrong. It's still lying. It's still deceptive. It's immoral to lie by omission, right? If you have an exclusive relationship. But it is a wake-up call for some couples that they can capitalize on.
Right.
And so like I think sometimes we compliment each other, but it can get lost.
Right, but you gotta change.
I don't want to feel like you don't love all of me. You know what I mean? It just feels like you're trying to like change parts about me.
Oh, that's I've heard this before too. That's I don't know any other way to put it other than that's ridiculous. I don't understand. Now, I understand if you're defensive. I understand if you're scared. I understand if you're worried that you're not going to be able to change. And I totally understand if someone's asking you to change something fundamental about you, like your culture or your religion or the way you dress or this kind of thing. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying you need to make adjustments because we have issues. I think what he's alluding to is the way she talks down to him, micromanages him, parents him, and treats him like a child, belittles him. And she's responding. Now, who knows what she thinks he's saying because he's not being super direct, but she's saying, it sounds like you want to change a part of me. And it's like, no doy. There are so many things that you will have to change if you want to make a relationship work about you, your personality, your perceptions, your behaviors, your emotional regulation, so many things. And it's quite common to not even know those things exist until you're actually in a intimate relationship. And, you know, I can't remember the exact phrase that I say around this frequently, but it's something like you don't know how bad of a person you are until you get married or something like that. Like, you really don't. There's so many people that just, you know, they glide through life, cruise through life with pretty low chaos and problems and their own personality coming forward in this negative way. And then, you know, you get involved in a relationship, there's a lot more at stake. You trigger the other person, and you'll see stuff come out of you that you didn't think was possible. So the fact that she is like, wait, so you're asking me to change? Yeah, that's unfair. You can't make me change. I'm never going to change. That's not conducive. And I don't know, maybe she knows all this and she's just responding to something else. But if this is what it looks like, what does this mean? I mean, I suppose it's immature to think that. That's what children usually think. By 29, you would hope that someone would have a little bit more flexibility. Not always, though, honestly. In fact, one of the treatment models that I studied and would teach is developed, I won't go into detail about it, but one of the central ideas is that the researcher practitioner that is proposing this mode of therapy said he found that people had to be at least 30 years old to go through this, because prior to that age, they don't have enough life experience or maturity or differentiation to even look at themselves in a somewhat objective way. You know, we're used to thinking about adulthood at 18 or 21. We're not used to thinking that people develop through their 20s, but they do. Brain develops, maturity develops, emotional regulation develops. A lot of things develop through our 20s and really throughout our life. But, you know, it starts to slow down in terms of the curve of growth in general. And it's not like there's, you know, because there's a lot of growth that happens in the first couple years of life, right? And then there's a lot of growth that happens between 5 and 10, less accelerated, at a slower pace than 0 to 5. But it's not like at 18 we just end maturity, we end learning, we just are an adult. And so I wonder if for Kara, she's on the cusp of realizing that she might have issues and she might have to work on them.
I'm waiting for the same thing.
So I need to work on my listening, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
I don't ever want my partner to feel that he's not heard. But there's some times when it's just like, what are we talking about? Like, what?
Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. So let me break this down. It's not horrible, but it's frustrating as a human being. As a therapist, I understand it. It takes time to change, but you hear it. And we've seen it on the show before as well. We saw it with Kalani. We saw it with others. It's this idea of just like, well, totally, I'm not going to belittle you, and you deserve to be heard. But sometimes it's like, come on, you know, the rolling of the eyes, and it's okay. You're right. You need to be listened to, but sometimes she's not saying this directly, and I could be misinterpreting, but her face and the language is, but you're ridiculous, and I know what's best. So, sure, I'll listen to you, because everyone deserves to be listened to. But everyone knows you're ridiculous, and I'm the smart one. Like, listen to this. Let's rewind it.
So I need to work on my listening, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
I don't ever want my partner to feel that he's not heard. But there's some times when it's just like, what are we talking about? Like, what is the point here?
I mean, I don't know if you hear that, but I do. And it makes sense that her issue, her personality trait is entrenched. And just him saying, I want you to listen more, which he did very well, by the way. He communicated that very well. And he's a lot younger than she is, right? He is 23. So the heuristic about people being younger, not having maturity, is, of course, case-by-case basis. But he, is being pretty mature about it, pretty nice about it. It's pretty fundamental. Sometimes I don't feel heard, and I want you to hear me more. Okay. But then you hear her response very quickly. But again, personality takes time to change. It takes a while before you can accept. In fact, I would say it's almost universal that the first 100 times that you bump up against the reality of your flaws, you will reject it. The first 100 times that someone says, I don't like this about you, the first 100 times that you're presented with a clear opportunity to recognize, I think I'm shooting myself in the foot here. The first 100 times that other people are like, you see the world that way? Really? And you're like, yeah. We hold on to our point of view. We develop those defenses for a reason. It's hard to let go of them. So much so that even when our partner is being nice, we're just like, oh, yeah, sure. But, you know, come on. So hopefully she'll shift over time.
It does go in one ear and out of the other.
One of the things that make a really good relationship is respect. And definitely, if someone in the relationship doesn't hear the other one, is really disrespectful. It's like,
yeah, he's doing a good job. He's a little passive. He could say, I feel disrespected by you sometimes, and that's not going to work for me, or it's hard to feel good about the relationship. You know, he's saying relationships in general, you need to have respect, but it's definitely in that ballpark, and I'm sure Kara is receiving it that way. And he's not being accusatory particularly. There's stronger language he could be using that would be more triggering to her. So let's see what she says here.
Like, it's not taking care of the relationship.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I don't know. It could be just me distorting, but I think that for her in her mind, she's like, I have a defense against what he just said, which is something along the lines of what I just said, which is, well, yeah, but you're a child, or I know what's best, something along those lines. But she knows I probably shouldn't say that, so she just remains quiet. And then he looks at her like, so? And she's like, yeah, I agree. Let's move on, because fundamentally, sure. But we all understand the reality here. I know better. You don't know as much as I do. That's why I chose you. So let's just keep it that way.
Okay, so make the change.
So you see, it's just it's frustrating because I've seen this exact same personality trait in my office, outside of my office, and this superiority, this idea of just, and it's so entrenched. And that's the thing, like, I don't blame the Karas of the world. The amount, like if I were to have a conversation with Kara, I can almost guarantee you that I would start laying out the evidence that she has a problem that she has to change, and the thousands of data points that she'd be able to pull out to defend herself and to prop up this perspective that she's superior, that it's not narcissism, by the way, it's more codependency and parentification, that kind of stuff. Think of like Tanya and Sinjin, think of Tiffany and Ronald, the way that Tanya talked to Sinjin, the way that Tiffany talked to Ronald. There's so many data points. Now, with Ronald and with Sinjin, you could actually see why they fit well together, because these individuals, Ronald and Sinjin, both from South Africa, right? Anyway, had issues that made them clearly having issues that needed to be accounted for by someone, not in the way that Tanya and Tiffany did, but it sucks in that codependency and that superiority and that micromanaging and that disrespect. So they were both playing their part in that. I don't think Guillermo is playing his part in that. I mean, I did comment, I don't know if I included this, I don't know if I posted it, but when they were talking about the computer, they have $6,000 and no income. Her income is extremely limited because she's been out of the country for a year or something. He can't get a job for months. Who knows how much he can get paid after a while. And they have $6,000 in total in their savings that might have to last months without anything being added to it. So he wants to buy a brand new computer. Now, maybe me and my wife were kind of debating about this, and she was saying, you know, there are Chromebooks for like a couple $100. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, point is that he, in that moment, was, in my opinion, kind of coming across as a little cavalier, not very budget-minded, which doesn't help with Kara's faith in him thinking like an adult. But I don't think he does that very often. So anyway, when I see that face that she's making, she's communicating to the interviewer of just like, everyone, well, you know, everyone understands that I need to micromanage and I know what's best. And it's so hard to change. And the real frustration for me is, Kara, if you can't recognize this as a problem, it'll take a while to change. But if you were just to say, yeah, you know what, I have a problem. I was raised in a certain way, or I have past situations that make me kind of paranoid about letting go of the wheel. And so when I see you trying to take control of the wheel, it scares me. And so, you know, I'm not, it's going to be hard for me to change this, but I recognize that I have a problem. That'd be okay. You know, you could say I recognize it, but it's going to take me years to kind of work this out, because I'm still trying to figure out what's the balance, because I don't want to just let go of the wheel completely, right? So what's the balance between having my hands on the wheel and letting you put your hands on what? I don't understand. I've never done that before, and I've never had a situation where it worked well for me. So I understand it's hard to change, but to just right off the bat just be like, well, and it of course plays into the whole thing, because in order for her to respect him and listen to him, she has to respect him and listen to him. In order for her to listen and hear that she has a problem, because he's telling her you have a problem, she has to listen to him that she has a problem, and her problem prevents her from hearing that.
Do you accept that?
Yeah, no, and I agree. I fully, totally hear you and understand where you're coming from, and I'm very aware that I talk a lot and I'm not a good listener all the time, and I hear you.
Okay, it's kind of in that direction. It might be more than I think that she understands, but I think she is agreeing with a minor part of it, a big part of it, listening, and she's saying talking too much, but I don't think she fully comprehends what he's trying to say, which is that you come from an attitude of superiority, entitlement. Again, it's not narcissism. I mean, who knows what she suffers from, but that's not what it looks like. It looks like someone who has been burned in the past, maybe even during her childhood, that if you take your hands off the wheel, bad things will happen to you.
But something that I really hope too is that your words became actions. Because you like to talk a lot of and then you don't do anything. That thing, just to let you know, it could make us have big problems.
Yeah, he's trying to emphasize it. I don't know if this is really getting through to her. I don't even think she understands what he's really saying, so I'm guessing it's going to be a lot more conversations that they're going to have. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.